Hello, my friends. This is Expensive Coins History Channel. Rare coin collectors are desperate for this. If you have one, I'll tell you exactly how to turn it into life-changing cash today. Before we go any further, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now, because what you're about to discover could completely change the way you look at the coins in your pocket, your drawer, or even that old jar sitting quietly in your home for years. Now imagine this for a moment. You're holding a simple 1-cent coin. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. You might have ignored it 100 times before. But hidden inside that small piece of copper is a story, a secret, and for a few lucky people, a value that has shocked even experienced collectors. Today, we are diving deep into one of the most overlooked coins in American history. A coin that most people believe is common, easy to find, and worth nothing more than a single cent. But that belief is exactly why it has remained hidden in plain sight for so long. We are talking about the 1980 Abraham Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, there is nothing dramatic about this coin. It carries the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, a design that has been part of American currency since 1909. Generations have used it, spent it, dropped it, and forgotten about it. But here's the truth most people don't realize. Not all 1980 pennies are the same. And that is where the story begins. The year 1980 sits at an interesting point in U.S. coin history. It was a time when billions of pennies were being produced, flooding the economy. Because of this, people assume every coin from that year is extremely common. And yes, in general, many of them are. But within that massive production, something unusual happened. Something subtle. Something that only careful observers, experienced collectors, and a few very lucky individuals have managed to uncover. Tiny variations, hidden errors, unexpected details. These are the kinds of things that transform a coin from ordinary into extraordinary. Think about this carefully. When millions or even billions of coins are produced, perfection is almost impossible. Machines wear down. Dies get damaged. Small inconsistencies begin to appear. Most of these go unnoticed. They pass through hands, through shops, through years, without anyone ever realizing their true significance. But sometimes, one of those small imperfections becomes incredibly valuable. Now picture someone casually checking their spare change. No special tools, no expert knowledge, just curiosity. And suddenly, they notice something slightly different. Maybe the lettering looks unusual. Maybe the surface reflects light in a strange way. Maybe there's a detail that doesn't match what they've seen before. That moment of curiosity can lead to a discovery worth thousands. The 1980 penny is one of those coins where such discoveries have happened. Collectors have found examples with striking visual differences. Some show unusual doubling in the lettering or design. Others reveal signs of dye that create unique textures. And then there are coins with striking errors, coins that were never supposed to leave the mint in that condition. These are the coins that serious collectors chase. But here's the part that makes this even more exciting. Many of these valuable coins are still out there. They have not all been locked away in collections. They are still hiding in circulation, in old coin rolls, in forgotten boxes, in inherited collections that nobody has examined closely. And that means one very important thing. There is still a chance that you could find one. Let's talk about what makes a 1980 penny stand out. First, condition matters more than most people realize. A coin that looks almost brand new, with sharp details and minimal wear, can already be worth far more than its face value. Collectors call this high grade, and they are willing to pay serious money for coins that have survived decades without damage. But condition alone is not enough to reach extraordinary value. What truly pushes a coin into the spotlight is rarity combined with uniqueness. For example, imagine a 1980 penny where the design appears slightly doubled. Not dramatically, but just enough that certain letters or numbers look like they have a shadow. This is known as a doubling effect, and depending on its clarity and strength, it can make the coin highly desirable. Now imagine a coin with an off-center strike. The design is shifted, leaving part of the coin blank. This is not damage. This is a mint error. And collectors love mint errors because they represent moments when the production process didn't go as planned. Then there are surface anomalies. Tiny cracks, unusual textures, or raised lines that form due to dye damage. These might look like flaws to an untrained eye, but to a collector, they are fingerprints of history. Each one tells a story about how that coin was made. And the more unusual that story is, the more valuable the coin can become. But here is where things get even more interesting. Some 1980 pennies have reached astonishing values not because they are perfect, but because they are different in ways that are extremely rare. When a coin combines high condition with a noticeable and desirable error, it enters a completely different category. This is where collectors become competitive. This is where auctions become intense. This is where prices can skyrocket. Now let's step back and think about human behavior for a moment. Why would someone pay thousands, even tens of thousands, for a single penny? The answer lies in scarcity and desire. When something is rare and recognized by a community as important, its value increases. And in the world of coin collecting, rarity is everything. A coin that only a handful of people can own becomes more than just metal. It becomes a symbol, a prize, a piece of history that someone is willing to fight for. The 1980 penny, in its rare forms, fits into that category. But there's also another factor that drives its value: accessibility. Unlike ancient coins or rare gold pieces that most people will never encounter, the 1980 penny is a coin that almost anyone could potentially find. That possibility creates excitement. It creates hope, and it keeps collectors constantly searching. Because the next valuable coin could be anywhere. It could be in your pocket right now. It could be in a jar you haven't opened in years. It could be in a collection passed down from someone who never knew what they had. Now imagine discovering that one of your coins is not just worth 1 cent, but thousands. What would you do? Would you sell it immediately? Would you hold on to it, hoping its value increases even more? Would you get it professionally graded to confirm its authenticity and condition? These are real decisions that people face when they uncover something valuable. And this is why knowledge is power. The more you understand what to look for, the better your chances of identifying something special. You don't need expensive equipment to start. Even a simple magnifying glass can reveal details that are invisible to the naked eye. Pay attention to the date. Examine the lettering. Look at the edges. Notice how the light reflects off the surface. Train your eye to spot differences. Because sometimes, the difference between an ordinary coin and an extraordinary one is incredibly small. Now here's something most people never think about: time. Every year that passes, fewer high-quality 1980 pennies remain. They get scratched, worn, lost, or damaged. That means the number of collectible examples slowly decreases. And when supply goes down while demand remains strong, value tends to go up. This is why collectors are always searching for coins that have been preserved well. It's not just about what the coin is. It's about how it has survived. A well-preserved 1980 penny with a unique feature is like a time capsule. It carries decades of history without losing its detail. And that makes it incredibly attractive to buyers. Now let's bring this back to you. You might be thinking, what are the chances that I actually have one of these coins? The truth is, most people don't check. They assume their coins are worthless. They ignore them. They spend them without a second thought. And that is exactly why valuable coins continue to slip through unnoticed. But you're not most people. You're here. You're listening. You're learning. And that puts you in a completely different position. Because now, you know that the 1980 penny is not just another coin. It's an opportunity. An opportunity to look closer, to question what you see, to take a second look at something you might have ignored your entire life. And sometimes, that second look is all it takes. Before we move to the next part of this story, I want you to do something simple. The next time you come across a penny, don't just toss it aside. Hold it. Examine it. Ask yourself if it could be one of the rare variations that collectors are searching for. Because the truth is, rare coin collectors are not just lucky. They are observant. They are patient. And they are willing to look where others don't. And that is exactly what gives them the advantage. Now imagine everything we've talked about so far, and then take it one step further. Because just when most people think they understand the 1980 penny story, there's another layer waiting to be uncovered. A version of this coin that came from a different mint carries a small but powerful detail and has quietly become one of the most talked about discoveries among serious collectors. We're now stepping into the world of the 1980 Lincoln penny. At first glance, it looks almost identical to the one we just explored. Same portrait, same year, same copper tone that has defined the Lincoln cent for generations. But there is one small mark that changes everything. A tiny letter, D. That single letter represents the Denver Mint, one of the major coin production facilities in the United States. And while millions of coins were produced there, something about certain 1980 pennies has made them stand out in ways that continue to surprise even experienced collectors. This is where things get serious. Because unlike the standard 1980 penny, which already has its share of rare variations, the 1980 version introduces a different kind of mystery, a different set of possibilities, and in some cases, an entirely different level of value. Now think about this carefully. The 1980 penny is one of those cases. Collectors who have spent years studying these coins have noticed patterns. Certain examples show sharper details than expected. Others reveal unusual inconsistencies that shouldn't exist in a perfectly controlled production process. And then there are those rare pieces that display clear, undeniable mint errors. These are the coins that turn heads. Imagine holding a coin where the design appears slightly misaligned. Not dramatically off, but just enough to catch your attention. Or a coin where the lettering shows signs of doubling that shouldn't be there. Or even a coin where the surface reveals faint lines or textures that tell a deeper story about how it was created. These are not accidents in the ordinary sense. They are rare outcomes of a complex process. And when collectors recognize them, they don't ignore them. They pursue them. Now here's where the emotional side of collecting comes into play. For many collectors, finding a rare 1980 penny is not just about money. It's about discovery. It's about being the person who saw something that others missed. It's about holding a piece of history that carries a unique identity. But at the same time, the financial side cannot be ignored. Because when a coin combines rarity, strong visual appeal, and excellent condition, its value can climb to levels that most people would never expect from a 1-cent piece. Let's talk about condition again, but this time in a more intense way. A 1980 penny that has survived in near-perfect condition is already rare. Think about how many coins from that year have been scratched, worn down, or damaged over time. Now imagine one that still looks almost untouched, with crisp edges, clean surfaces, and sharp details. That alone is impressive. But now add a rare feature on top of that. Now you're not just looking at a collectible. You're looking at something exceptional. This is where collectors begin to compete. Because there are only so many coins like that in existence. And when one appears on the market, it attracts attention quickly. Bidders analyze it. Experts evaluate it. And collectors who understand its significance start making decisions. Do they let it go, or do they fight to own it? This is how prices begin to rise. This is how a coin that once had no attention suddenly becomes the center of it. Now think about the journey of one of these coins. It starts at the mint, produced among millions of others. It enters circulation, passing through countless hands. It might be used in shops, stored in jars, forgotten in drawers. Years pass, decades pass, and then one day, someone notices it. That moment changes everything. Because from that point forward, the coin is no longer just currency. It becomes a discovery, and discoveries have value. Now here's something that makes the 1980 penny even more fascinating. Some of the most valuable examples were not found by professional collectors. They were found by ordinary people. People who decided to take a closer look. People who didn't assume that every coin was the same. People who understood that sometimes the smallest details can lead to the biggest rewards. That's the mindset that changes outcomes. Now let's bring this back to reality again. You don't need to be an expert to start looking. You don't need expensive tools or years of experience. What you need is awareness, attention, curiosity. Start with what you have. Look at your coins. Separate the ones from 1980. Check for the D mint mark. Examine each one carefully. You might not find anything unusual at first. That's normal. But the more you look, the more your eye begins to adjust. You start noticing differences. You start recognizing patterns. And eventually, you might come across something that doesn't quite fit. That's the moment you're waiting for. Because that's how discoveries happen. Not through luck alone, but through observation. Now let's talk about the final piece of this puzzle. Value. After everything we've explored, after understanding the rarity, the variations, the importance of condition, and the role of discovery, there is one question that always comes to mind. What are these coins actually worth? And this is where the story reaches its most shocking point. Because while most 1980 and 1980 pennies are still only worth their face value, the rare examples, the ones with the right combination of features, condition, and uniqueness, have reached extraordinary prices. The kind of prices that make people stop and rethink everything they know about coins. A rare 1980 Lincoln penny has been valued at up to $93,800. And the 1980D Lincoln penny has reached an incredible value of $102,000. Let that sink in. A single cent, potentially worth over $100,000. This is why collectors are searching. This is why they are paying attention. And this is why you should never ignore the coins in your possession again. Because hidden among the ordinary, there are pieces that carry extraordinary potential. All it takes is one coin, one discovery, one moment of curiosity that leads you to look closer instead of looking away. And that moment could change everything. If you found this information valuable, make sure you subscribe and stay connected, because there are still countless hidden treasures out there waiting to be discovered.